Afternoon Rangers, Lieutenant Thompson, your flight doc, here talking to hopefully answer some questions and dispel some myths regarding the COVID vaccine that's now available at the Naval Health Clinic. There's two COVID vaccines that are currently under emergency use authorization. The one that we have here is the Moderna vaccine. I know that we're going on a year of this pandemic, and the good news is that this COVID vaccine, once we get enough people in the US vaccinated, there's hopefully an end in sight to this pandemic for us. So first off, I wanted to talk about what is this vaccine itself. So the Moderna vaccine is the vaccine that we have. It is an mRNA vaccine. Now, what does that mean? So mRNA is different than DNA. There's a lot of discussion where, is this vaccine going to cause me to have cancer? Is this going to spread to my children? Is this going to make me sterile? Is this going to be a part of my DNA? So there's a difference between DNA and mRNA. DNA is what's in your cells. It's what encodes your genetic material. mRNA is what's in the virus, but it's also what tells your body to make proteins. So essentially, how this vaccine works is you have the viral mRNA that is encoded and carried in a capsule that basically goes to your muscle cells. It comes into your cells, never enters the actual nucleus of your cell at all where your DNA exists. It goes to the machinery that makes protein, and it makes the viral spike protein. Now, when we look at the coronavirus, the spike protein is the protein that causes the virus to be able to infect our cells. So with this, once it tells your cell machinery to make that spike protein, it completely breaks down. mRNA is a very fragile molecule, and so once it does its job, it goes away. It is not going to become part of your cell. It's not going to change your genetic material. It's not going to spread to baby. It's not going to spread and make you sterile. All of those things are myths that have popped up online that hopefully I'm trying to dispel. What's interesting about this is the first mRNA vaccine that is up on the market for human consumption. To some people that might sound scary, but the thing is this technology has been around for decades, and we've used it in cancer treatments and in research in general. And we know that this is safe technology, basically because of the process of this mRNA, where all we need is a piece of the viral RNA or DNA. We're actually able to make this vaccine extremely quickly, as opposed to traditional vaccines. So again, the fact that this happened rapidly and developed in less than a year may scare some people, but basically we're using the fact that technology has advanced in the last 50 years to where we're able to do things more quickly and safely. So when we look at this vaccine, the Moderna vaccine specifically is 2 doses. They're 28 days apart. Basically, after the first vaccine, when you get that vaccine, about a week to 2 weeks later, you're at 50 to 60% effectiveness in preventing COVID. And 1 to 2 weeks after that second dose, you're at 95% effectiveness. So what that means is 5 to 6 weeks after your initial COVID vaccine dose, you are 95% effective against preventing COVID. Now, when it comes to that additional 5%, the news is when they looked at those people in that 5% still caught COVID, but they didn't develop severe disease. So this is incredibly great news when we look at these clinical trials. So basically, when they did these clinical trials, they had over 30,000 people enrolled in the initial COVID trial, vaccine trial, and now across the world, there have been over 4 million doses that have been delivered of this vaccine. So we have a lot of data points to show how people are going to react to the vaccine and certain side effects that can come from this vaccine itself. So when we talk about side effects, so the most common side effects are soreness, headache, fever, chills, runny nose, muscle aches, those sorts of things. Similar to how when you get the flu vaccine, you can sometimes develop some not feeling the best right afterwards. The flu vaccine does not give you the flu. In the same way, this COVID vaccine, there is no live virus, so it is not giving you COVID. But basically what it's doing is it's ramping up your immune system and training your immune system to fight this virus. Because again, it caused your body to make some of the spike protein. So when your body encounters that spike protein in the actual COVID virus, whenever it comes around, that your body is able to fight that. So for me, when I had the COVID vaccine, I had some headache and some muscle soreness that lasted for a few hours. Talking to a lot of my friends in the medical community that have had both doses, and then talking to several of the IPs who've already had the vaccine as well too. They developed similar symptoms to this, and the longest that I've heard someone lasting is about 72 hours. Because of that, that's why NAMI has that 72-hour grounding period. Currently, right now, it's 72-hour self-grounding for after each dose. So in the future, that may change as we get more data points, and NAMI may be less restrictive and go more towards the 48 hours of the FAA, or less so to be similar to a flu vaccination or any of the other vaccines that we receive. But at this point in time, we got to go with what NAMI says at the 72-hour mark. So when we talk about some of the severe side effects that show up in the media when people freak out that they've experienced something with this COVID vaccine. So currently, again, I've said that there have been over 4 million vaccinations of the COVID vaccine currently, and when all severe side effects have to be reported to the FDA or another country's equivalent to the FDA. And of that, we've only looked at around 20-something cases of severe vaccine adverse reactions. The most common one that everyone talks about is anaphylaxis. So anaphylaxis, when you think of a severe allergic reaction, that is something that, again, has occurred extremely low. It's always a risk for any vaccine. It's always a risk for any injection. Some people develop anaphylaxis because of random things in their body that we don't know, so we call it idiopathic anaphylaxis. In this, there have been very few cases, and that's part of the reason why we have you sit around for 15 minutes after you get the actual vaccine itself. The other thing that people talk about is something called Bell's palsy, which is basically a facial paralysis that can last for a period of time. That is something that is actually common in the general population. If I get 30,000 people together, I'm going to have anywhere between 1 and 4 people develop that, develop Bell's palsy. And in this 30,000 person study of the vaccine, the fact that only 2 people developed Bell's palsy actually shows it's less likely than in the general population. So several of these things, the way that any sort of vaccine trial works, or post-vaccination safety requirements work, is if someone has anything happen, it gets reported, just so that we can track to make sure that things are safe. When it comes to this vaccine, many people have questions. So I already had COVID. Can I still get this vaccination? Yes, you can get the vaccination. It is actually still recommended to get the vaccination according to the FDA, according to the CDC, and the manufacturer itself. So basically, once you've had COVID, there is that 90-day window when you're extremely unlikely to get COVID again. But within that 90 days, you can still get vaccinated. Once you meet return to work criteria, you can get vaccinated. And because basically it functions as a booster. We don't know how long natural immunity lasts for this, but the studies seem to show that the vaccination immunity lasts longer than the natural immunity. So still recommend getting the vaccination if you've had COVID in the past. As far as things go, currently our priority list right now with the COVID vaccine is we're knocking out our GS employees, our contractors, and our IPs as essential personnel, and we're doing shot X's to try and ramp up. But the plan is looking like in February knocking out the students. So with hopefully having the wing vaccinated by early March. Right now, if there's any questions, the floor is open.
Hey Doc, it's Sexo here. I got a couple of quick hitter questions for you to help summarize your brief. So first of all, which vaccine will we get if we go to the NAS Corpus Clinic?
So we're getting the Moderna vaccine here.
Okay, and does that vaccine put live coronavirus into our bodies?
So there's no live coronavirus. This is an mRNA vaccine. No live virus is in this vaccine at all.
Okay, great. And how long will I be down for after I get the vaccine?
So you'll be down for 72 hours after each dose.
Okay, and then for planning purposes, when do I need to expect the second dose?
So the second dose is 28 days later. There is some wiggle room. We just can't give it any earlier than 28 days, but we can be able to accommodate if there's extenuating circumstances.
Okay, and does that one have the same 72-hour downing period?
Both doses, it's 72-hour downing period.
Okay, good. So we should be able to schedule smartly and snivel for those so that we can accommodate those downing periods in the squadron. When will I be considered fully vaccinated?
So you'll be fully vaccinated at that 95% effectiveness about 5 to 6 weeks after your first vaccination.
Okay. How quickly do you think the vaccine is going to be available to the squadron at large?
So what it looks like is February is when we're expecting mass shot X's of students. But right now we've vaccinated over 20 VT-28 personnel with no issues, and going to be vaccinating more this week and next week.
Okay. And the last thing I've got for you is if I have any more questions or if I have concerns about the vaccine, can I reach out to you to help resolve those questions?
Yes, so I will gladly talk to anybody who has any concerns one way or the other regarding the vaccine. Again, I recommend getting the vaccine at this point in time. It's completely voluntary, but shoot me an email, find me in person at the squadron, and I'll be happy to have any sort of discussion regarding what your if you have problems with the vaccine or you just have general questions in general.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doc.
Well, thank you, sir.